Hello wonderful person, this is Anton, and in this video we're going to be talking about a new mission that NASA has just launched to investigate the potential for us to mine asteroids somewhere out there in space using nothing but bacteria. Let's talk about this and welcome to What the Math. Once upon a time, right after college, over a decade ago, I used to live right here. What you're looking at is actually one of the biggest diamond mines in the world, and this is where, well, basically I got to experience my first full-time job. I was working inside of this huge diamond mine facility, along with approximately 1,000 or so people. It was a very interesting experience, but that's not really what I wanted to talk about today. Even though this was a really unusual first job to have after college, I enjoyed it, I learned a lot, but it also made me realize how advanced and how extremely complex any kind of mining is. For one, it requires extremely large machinery, and a lot of it is really expensive and really heavy. So when it comes to trying to figure out on how we're going to be mining asteroids and how to actually take all of this to space, we're going to have trouble pretty quickly because a lot of this stuff is just too heavy to carry. Which is why NASA decided to come up with an experiment that is going to investigate a new type of mining that has been slowly picking up here on Earth as well. And even though we've discovered this technique pretty much 100 years ago, it hasn't really been used until relatively recently. It involves using bacteria such as this, for example. This is a typical acidic bacteria known as Aciditheobacillus, and these usually live in relatively acidic and also extreme environments. And what's really unusual about these bacteria and other similar bacteria is that they're able to use different types of metals, like for example iron or even gold, to essentially breathe. And these bacteria often use all sorts of metals for basically metabolism, but they don't really keep them forever. They do release these metals after they've been used up. In other words, we can use bacteria, place them into all sorts of minerals that may have metals that we need, and then by using a very specific process, extract those metals by letting the bacteria essentially consume things. And this is something we refer to as biomining, which can generally be divided into two main categories. First one is where you have bacteria extracting those metals and then leaving them behind. And the second one is when bacteria actually eat everything around the metals, kind of leaving them behind that way. And these two techniques are usually called bioleaching and biooxidation. So this is something we know is quite possible here on Earth by using the bacteria that we can usually find in these really extreme conditions, such as for example these sulfur pits and sulfur lakes that you see on the screen. And even though today most of the companies still use the classical mining to extract most things, the biomining is really picking up pace, especially because it's quite efficient, very cheap, and is relatively environmentally friendly. But NASA is interested in something completely different. For NASA, it's all about being able to come up with this technique where we can take these bacteria, send them to different locations around the solar system, and have them extract materials for us instead of us bringing these super complicated machines there. And this is what they're trying to investigate with this new experiment that was just launched to International Space Station. And this experiment is basically simply known as Biorock. Now, the experiment is relatively simple. They essentially took a few of these bacteria, placed them into various conditions along with minerals, and the idea here is to explore how these bacteria react to being in space and if they are able to actually create necessary materials for us without us bringing any machinery. In other words, they're trying to investigate the zero-G effects on the bacteria that is quite easily capable of extracting those minerals here on Earth. Now, we don't really have the results just yet, but we do know that if this experiment is successful, this opens up an entire opportunity for us to, well, essentially find a way to mine asteroids, find a way to mine Martian rock and Martian resources, and of course create all sorts of mining opportunity on the moon as well. Now, the most important factor here is that this is mostly for metals for now. These bacteria will not be able to extract, for example, helium-3, which is what the moon is famous for, but they will be able to extract a lot of different metals, including metals that we need for construction of all sorts of electronic parts that are necessary for NASA astronauts to survive and that might not be available, for example, on Mars. So one of the major advantages here is that we can have bacteria extract all sorts of minerals for us and then use these minerals to 3D print any kind of components that might be necessary for astronauts. So in that sense, it creates a colony that's almost entirely self-sufficient. And this is something that we're definitely trying to achieve in the next few decades or so. And although countries like Japan, for example, are already actively investigating different types of mining on asteroids like Ryugu that they're currently on, we still don't really have an actual technique for how to extract all of these minerals from these rocks. And so if the bacteria in Biorock mission can actively extract materials in 0G, we can find a way to literally land on the surface of an asteroid, inject the bacteria into the asteroid and provide the bacteria with necessary conditions, and then just wait. And after a while, all we need to do is just collect all of the materials extracted and return them back to Earth. So this is something that NASA is currently really interested in, especially because it will provide a very substantial and very beneficial reason for us to start exploring space and solar system even more. Basically, mining will create financial opportunities for various companies. And so if this mission is successful, we're going to be able to use this right here, bacteria, for very efficient mining across the solar system, and this will create incredible opportunities, allowing us to settle Mars quite easily without breeding these unnecessary huge machines that you just saw on the screen. Now for now, all we can do is just wait, because basically this mission will take a while before it's finished and the results will need to be analyzed quite thoroughly. For now though, all we can do is try to develop this biomining technique a little bit more here on Earth, because it might provide us with much more beneficial and more efficient ways of mining for various resources here as well. For now though, that's it. Thank you for watching, subscribe if you still haven't, share this with someone who loves learning about space and sciences, and come back tomorrow to learn something you may have not known before. I'll see you tomorrow, space out, and as always, bye bye.